You are about to take a trip back in time to a world that existed before Prehistoric Park. This is an epic adventure into the minds of the team who dared to imagine the impossible. Journey with us through the making of Prehistoric Park and learn the secrets of the series from the people who refuse to let sleeping dinosaurs lie.
Prehistoric Park is not a zoo. What Prehistoric Park is, it's like the ultimate wildlife sanctuary. Sanctuary where we're not just kind of bringing, giant pandas back from the brink, we're actually looking after extinct animals. So it's kind of the most incredible wildlife conservation project you can imagine. There's an adage that conservationists use, which is, extinction is forever. So we sort of turned that a little bit on its head and thought, well, what if extinction didn't have to be forever? What if you could actually bring back the creatures that we've lost over the sort of, billions of years since life began? And that was the sort of starting point. And then you start thinking, well, how do we bring them back? We travel back in time. And then when we've got them, how do we look after them?
Once the big brains had the concept for the series, it was time to find an explorer who could cope with these perilous environments. They needed a person who could deal with being charged at by a massive dinosaur, or 10. That person was Nigel Marvin.
I think every zoologist, they would love to go back in time, and ever since I've been knee-high to a grasshopper, I've thought how fantastic it would be to see dinosaurs. I love living reptiles, but just imagine finding a Deinosuchus, that's a 65-foot crocodile, and amazing things that lived in the past, and to go back and see them and to bring them back to the present day, every naturalist's dream.
But the team now had what seemed like an impossible obstacle to overcome. How on earth were they going to travel back in time?
Einstein always made a big deal about, space and time and wouldn't it be difficult to time travel. And I think in reality he sort of knew, really, like we do now, that it's actually quite simple. You just need a stick with some lights on it. And you stick that in the ground, time portal comes up, and you go back in time. There's really nothing more to it. So that's what we did.
Come on, T-Rex.
Once the team had the Nobel Prize-winning time travel solution in hand, they had another tricky task. They had to find the perfect location for Prehistoric Park.
We recce'd lots of different kinds of zoos and sanctuaries to get our ideas from, because it was really important that the audience don't watch Prehistoric Park and feel sorry that these creatures have come from wonderfully open landscapes 65 million years ago to a tiny little pen. That would be really cruel. So we worked very hard at creating a place that we thought prehistoric animals would like to be.
What it needed a subtropical climate. Lots of the creatures we were bringing back were reptiles. They're cold-blooded, they rely on external sources of heat. We needed the right mosaic of habitats where there were big cliffs surrounding the park, so if animals did escape, which fingers crossed they won't, if they do escape, they'll be kept in by the geography.
These unusual creatures would have unusual problems. Who was going to make sure they stayed healthy?
They advertised in a proper veterinary journal, a scientific journal, and it was in with all the job ads for a horse vet and a dog vet, and it was a really good ad. And it said, I think it said, do you want to be a dinosaur vet? And I thought, that sounds quite cool.
If looking after their well-being was going to be hard, running the park would be a seemingly impossible task. With thousands of tons of lizard heading their way, the team were in desperate need of an actor to play Bob, the friendly park keeper.
Can you get a 10-foot pull down the bottom of the paddock? Remember, check everything. This is home to a dangerous creature.
What sort of person were they looking at to play Bob? Well, there's a question. I think they wanted someone good-looking, suave, debonair. No, with avuncular quality, somebody warm, someone that had an interest in the history of the dinosaurs, someone with a genuine love of animals of all sorts. someone that liked the outdoors, liked the sweltering heat of South Africa. Just basically me, I think.
It's not always totally serious around Bob. Things go wrong around Bob, and he's the kind of, the guy that has to run around fixing it. So there's a little, with Bob, we used to play a bit.
Bob the park keeper would deal with creatures such as the troublesome Titanosaur and Matilda and Terence, the tricky T-Rex.
I think you'd have to be very brave to be a park keeper looking after 2 baby T-Rexes. They're going to be very hungry the entire time because they're growing so fast. So they need a lot of food to fuel that growth. So they're constantly looking out for an easy meal, and an unwary park keeper might make a very good snack for a young baby T-Rex.
But what was Nigel going to rescue? The team had to decide what the viewers at home would want to see in Prehistoric Park. They had the luxury of choosing from the past 500 million years.
Choosing the animals for the park, that was difficult and a real joy for me. But of course, we wanted the famous extinct creatures, the saber-toothed cats. T-Rex, of course, the ultimate predator.
T-Rex has to be the most famous dinosaur of all time simply because it's thought to be the largest ever predator that ever walked on land. Anything with teeth 30 centimetres long is bound to capture the imagination of people who are interested in the fantastic and the terrible.
We also thought we'd spin in a few different ones that people aren't so used to seeing. So, for instance, some of the latest research into dinosaurs is into dino birds found in China, and there's this crazy thing called a microraptor that's actually got 4 wings. No one's ever seen these things realised in any form at all. So, for us, it was a great chance to say, look, this is brand new to science. Let's have a look at what they're like.
It was like a prehistoric detective agency in the production office. The researchers and directors were reading through all the latest papers and were speaking to the key experts in order to piece together the life and death of the stars of the show. Paleontologists have many different clues at their disposal.
So starting with the fossil record, we actually have the bones themselves, the actual skeletons of the animals, and we can look at those, describe them, and compare them with those of living animals. Then, as well as that direct kind of evidence, we also have a number of indirect lines of evidence coming from what are called trace fossils.
Trace fossils are non-body remains such as footprints, eggs, burrows, and even prehistoric poo. Nigel travelled to Scotland to find out more.
Trackway there.
Yeah, there's 2 rows of tracks here, one along here and the other one down here. This is 36 centimetres wide, so it must have been made by a large animal.
And this is a real Scottish trend. There's not many of these in the world.
No, there's only a handful of these sorts of trackways in the world of this age. It was made by an animal called Arthroplura, which is a giant extinct millipede. I like to think of these things as paleo-polaroids, or snapshots in time of the activities of these animals. What we're seeing here, preserved on this surface, is just a fleeting moment of what happened 300 million years ago in this ancient swamp.
These ancient creepy crawlies were C-list celebrities. But this was about to change as they earned their newfound status as the rock stars of Prehistoric Park. But before any of these became 3D creatures, they were trapped in a 2D world on one man's drawing board.
At the beginning of the process, we sort of sit around in the office with our fevered imaginations and trying to think, well, what's going to happen, and what animals do we bring back? What are they going to do? Imagine a dinosaur getting pregnant or a mammoth needing a haircut because it's too hot. And what Louis does, the storyboard artist, is he sort of takes these mad thoughts and actually turns them into something that other people can get their heads around.
Storyboarding is one of my favourite parts of the process because it's really there that you're making the program, you're making the film. It's actually a time where you can throw in as many ideas as you want, and if you've got a talented storyboard artist like we did, when you get the boards coming back to you and you look at them, you think, well, this is how we're going to film it, and this is how it's going to look.
If you've got a document you can go back to every now and then to remind you exactly what you're supposed to be doing without any ambiguity at all, it basically ensures that you're going to be able to get what you knew you wanted in the first place, which can so easily start going awry as you get into the chaos of actually filming.
One by one, Nigel's extraordinary adventures were coming to life. From the hot swamps of the Carboniferous to the freezing temperatures of the Ice Age.
Program 2, very exciting for me, woolly mammoths. You know, we know quite a lot about them because they've actually been preserved in the permafrost. They only became extinct relatively recently, 10,000 years ago, and you can actually find out about their DNA. And paleontologists believe that they are very close in their social behaviour, how they lived to modern elephants.
But building a mammoth was not as simple as dressing an elephant in a hairy coat. They had to come up with a more controllable beast.
To create animals from nothing, you need something. I mean, one of the techniques we used was animatronics, which is basically a life-size puppet.
So they turned to a company called Crawley Creatures, experts in high-tech rubber models of all shapes and sizes.
I mean, when I first saw the animatronics, oh sorry, I've got a squeaky chair, but I'll start that one again. When I first saw the quality of the animatronics, I was stunned. I mean, the scale, the quality of the sculpture, the electronics that go into to operate them is breathtaking. I mean, there's no magic anymore that can do it. It's just brilliant.
Sightings of the rubber dinosaurs were reported around the globe, from Chile and Florida to Brazil and South Africa. Wherever they went, a team of dedicated operators would follow. Not only did they have to look good on their world tour, they also had to have the right moves.
I think even a slower move round and more of a kind of an amalgamation of different kinds of moves on her. So that, you know, push her forward a little bit, move her, rock her. Most of the time, Martha the Mammoth was computer animation, but there were some moments when we were making the programme that she had to be an animatronic because we were looking for an interaction.
Here, Wanky, here.
The elephant was carefully led up towards the animatronic mammoth, which remained hidden until the last moment.
The elephant handler had told us either the elephant will completely ignore the animatronic mammoth or she'll go crazy. We waited with bated breath to see what would happen, and then something really amazing happened. The elephant actually believed our mammoth was real, and she stretched out her trunk and she tried to interact with her. It was a really fantastic moment, and everybody actually believed that Martha, just for a little moment, was really real.
13 animatronics were used throughout the series, but the vast majority of the creatures were created by a team of computer graphic geniuses working at a company called Framestore.
We've worked with Framestore in the past, right from when we started doing Walking with Dinosaurs, and I think by working with them together over the last sort of 6 to 8 years, we've together just kept pushing the boundaries about what you can do with this kind of factual program.
The Framestore team needed environments, so the directors spent months filming nothing but doing everything to get all they needed to build this fantastic world.
When you're trying to create a shot that will have some computer animation in it, you shoot what's called a backplate. That's an empty shot without the animation. Now, if you want a moving shot, then you have to not just shoot a single backplate, but you have to shoot several backplates in order to be able to sew them all together and then move through the shot.
In this shot, we put a pole in with a little ball on the top, just to give Nigel an eye line. Now, as soon as the eye line isn't there, if the actor's looking in the wrong place, you don't believe the shot. So in this case, he's there looking at what will soon be Martha.
You know, you get experience of imagining that you're looking a woolly mammoth dead in the eyes.
Acting with nothing is unusual, but you get used to it when you're doing it every day. You sort of have to build your own world, which all these fantasy creatures live in, of this invisible world.
Come on, it's time to meet your public. I knew I could do it. I think I had the temperature too low, but these two have finally hatched out. Come on, quick shop. Now the little rascals are following me everywhere. The trouble is, I was the first thing they saw when they broke out of the shelves, so now they think I'm their mum.
I do talk to my dog at home all the time, so I just thought we'd talk to them like you talk to Frankie.
Tuck in. It's steady now, come on. Don't bolt your food. Look, if you eat that quickly, you'll get wind. Oh, it's not easy being a mother, you know.
And and that's what I did, and it seemed to work, I think.
Oh, it's a Triceratops! It's a Triceratops! He's done it! Our first dinosaur, but look at him. He's magnificent.
Hold it, calm down.
While Nigel and the actors were running and jumping and imagining what the creatures will look like, back in London, the Framestore team are starting to build the creatures and bring them to life.
When we build our creatures, we start off with an actual physical maquette, which is sculpted. And this is really important because everyone can put it on the table and see exactly what we're looking at. This maquette is then scanned in using laser, and the information is then transferred onto the computer. Once that comes in, you need to build an internal skeleton to make the whole creature move, and this allows the animators to animate freely.
Once the scanning is complete, the animators take these virtual beings and breathe life into them. This is where the creatures take their first few steps and eventually run, jump, fly, or swim.
So it's very much like physically taking hold of a creature and then just posing it in certain ways, taking a snapshot of that, moving the time slide on, and then going to the next thing. Very similar to stop frame animation, except we don't have to redo it every single time it's filmed. We can save these positions and re-import them onto other creatures and move around with it and so forth.
But a very strange creature was proving to be complex to animate and even harder to pronounce.
Parasaurolophus. 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 Parasaurolophus.
Parasaurolophus.
Parasaurolophus.
Parasaurolophus. No, Parasaurolophus. No, it's not in my program.
The Parasaurolophus might have moved in a number of different ways, and what we see is that it seems to be mainly walking on two legs. The hind legs are very massive, whereas the front legs are not particularly strong.
What we believe it does, and I think what looks very nice, very natural, is that it will walk on four legs. A similar sort of gait to a camel because of the structure of the creature. But once it gets up to speed, due to the weight and the balance of it, it would shift its weight backwards, lift up and then run on its back legs. I think it would be a very strange creature to run on all four legs because it just looks like it would get tangled up.
But not all of their walks made it into the program.
But to make it look real, you have to have physical interactions. You have to have the creature looking like it's kicking something, or it's kicking up dust, or it's kicking some bones on the ground. So we have to shoot them as what we call physical interactions.
In the New Zealand shoot, episode 3, we had an actor, Morgan, a local actor, who was great. And we have a scene where he's attacked by the Mei Long, which are these vicious dinosaurs. They're like a pack of wild dogs. And for that interaction, we actually had to pull him backwards through a hedge.
Help me!
We did about 10 takes in the end, and this poor guy is getting pulled through clean off his feet and backwards about 6 foot each time by this enormous stunt coordinator. And that kind of interaction, that's what these programs are all about. You have to imagine, you have to get into your head that you're standing next to some enormous dinosaurs, and it's amazing actually how quickly our actors and presenters get into that.
Get your bag off! Help! Help me! Help! Help!
They're away.
While the directors were filming in exotic locations, the sound designer was shut in a small dark room in London, making and recording strange noises.
A lot of the time we don't actually have any sound at all. So we have to make the whole thing up from the word go, and that's great and exciting, but it's also hard work. Let's say take a dinosaur which has no sound recorded on location, and we can give it our own special touch, so to speak, with obviously a bit of authenticity entwined with it. Big whack if we were actually creating a T-Rex sound. See what you have to do for your job. So that's biting into bones and what have you. You've got to have good teeth for this job, and into other horrible dinosaur animals.
Back on location, literally thousands of elements were being filmed by the directors and fed back to Framestore. The magic is pulling all these pictures together in what is known as compositing.
In this next sequence, Nigel gets chased by a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and he runs right past a pen of crocodiles. So it was going to be a bit dangerous to have Nigel actually running past them, so we shot them separately. There they are. And made a lot of noise off screen to get a reaction out of them for when the Tyrannosaurus Rex runs past. We then shot Nigel against the blue screen and then put the elements together. And then in the finished shot we added a footprint, we had a bit of stuff being kicked off, and had a bit of a camera move, so a bit of shake when the Tyrannosaurus Rex's foot hits the ground.
Putting these shows together, it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle. And, you know, in the final scene, that amazing chase when Matilda the T-Rex escapes, she runs past some crocodiles chasing me. That was done in South Africa. And then the next shot, we cut to Deinosuchus, the prehistoric crocodile, erupting out of the water and actually saving my life by distracting Matilda. That was done in Australia, so you've got to actually think about how all of these stories flow together, and they can be shot in many different locations.
The Deinosuchus was one of the creatures Nigel was really looking forward to meeting.
Yeah, I've done a lot with living crocodiles and alligators, but the largest crocodile alive today, the saltwater crocodile, is about 25 feet long. But just imagine Deinosuchus, crocodile 60 feet long, and I was so excited about meeting that. And that's a crocodile that actually hunts dinosaurs.
Every time we do more CGI work, we always like to push the boundaries a bit more. And I think one that's, you know, definitely causing cause for some concern is this crocodile role we're doing.
It took an enormous amount of preparation. It kind of shows you what goes into CG. I think even 8, 9, 10 months before the shoot, we were sitting down having hour-long meetings just about this one shot, about how to achieve it.
It's something we never tried before, actually showing a giant prehistoric crocodile rolling in the water as it does a death roll.
This could get the prize as the hardest shot in the programme. Deinosuchus roll. We've been dreading it ever since we saw it on the storyboard, how we're going to film it and how we're going to composite the whole thing. The interactions are very difficult. We've got all these splashes going on, and it's unforgiving.
To make things even harder for Sirio, the compositor, I shot it in slow motion so that everybody can stare in loving detail at every frame, which means it really does have to be good. As I'm talking now, the shot's not quite finished, and I'm hoping, my fingers are crossed, that it's going to come out okay.
People often ask, oh, do you have to do stuff frame by frame? And it gets worse than that. Sometimes it's pixel by pixel. You're really studying stuff very closely.
It'd be so much easier if we just had a 50-foot prehistoric crocodile and could film it for real. But there wasn't time.
But finally, the Deinosuchus was ready to rock and roll.
It's gone leapt out there. The Parasaurolophus is being dragged back.
With the deadly Deinosuchus roll complete, it was time for the icing on the prehistoric pudding. Composer Daniel Pemberton spent a year in a flurry of staves, crotchets and quavers. He worked with the City of Prague Philharmonic Orchestra to tell an epic musical story that would guide us through 300 million years of prehistoric life.
Making Prehistoric Park was an amazing experience for all of us. Sometimes it pushed us to the limit. We were often in very difficult conditions. We were dealing with real animals, CG animals, actors, hostile climates, long hours, but I think in the end, what we've made is really, really special.
Prehistoric Park for me, what a roller coaster ride. 150 days filming. Of course, you rarely see anything until you get back here. You know, I cannot believe how realistic it is. And, you know, I've always wanted to travel in time. It's a dream come true to actually see myself with these prehistoric creatures. And when I'm an old man, I'll really believe that I travelled back in time.
What we hope we've shown with this series is that, in a sense, extinction doesn't have to be forever.
What is Prehistoric Park? Ask me another one, that's too hard.
The island to the location we wanted it at. And Fraser Island is
Hello? No, she's not.
Certainly the tractor scene where we allow the Tyrannosaur, was it the Tyrannosaur? I can't. The trash. For example, on the tractor, when we were letting the I've forgotten its name again.
Each one of our story, it's quite hard, this, isn't it? I'm always on that side and it looks so damn easy. Oh, now I really know how hard it is.